This is Cine Script, where movies get retold scene by scene.
Becket is stretched out in his death row cell, and the clock leaves him roughly 4 hours before he is put to death. In walks a chaplain, Father James, and what catches the old man off guard is the calm. The prisoner is not rattled, not pale, nothing. Becket only gripes that his last meal came with the wrong dessert.
Cheesecake?
No, I ordered vanilla and they brought me chocolate. So, Father, appreciate you coming down here, but I'm fine. When the chaplain points out that there may not be another chance to talk and asks whether anything is weighing on him, the condemned man checks the clock and says the rumors people repeat about him barely scratched the surface. The truth runs deeper, and it is a far sadder thing. The way he tells it, none of it begins with him. It begins with his mom. Mary was her name, raised in Huntington alongside the rest of the Redfellows, a Long Island clan whose money ran to $28 billion. A Celeste named Gary caught her eye at one of the family functions, and things moved fast from there. The pair fell hard for each other. By the time she was 18, she was carrying a child. Her father laid down terms the moment she told him, lose the pregnancy or keep it and forfeit the family, and either get rid of it or do what you like. She chose the child. With that, she walked away from the estate and swapped the comforts of Huntington for a modest stretch of New Jersey called Belleville. Then the cruelty arrived. On the very day her son was born, Gary's body failed him. An embolism in the hospital that same day, and just like that, he was dead, leaving Mary to raise the boy alone. A clerk's job at the DMV became her living, and she made every dollar count. One lesson got drummed into the kid early. Being cast out of the family, she insisted, was not the same as being cut out of the wealth. The grandfather had long ago sealed the estate inside a trust that no one could touch, a tax dodge wrapped around the yachts and the houses and a private island or two, and the design was simple. Whoever stood oldest and still drew breath collected it all. 7 Redfellows occupied the line ahead of her son. He sat at the very bottom. So on paper, outlast all 7, and the whole fortune lands in his lap one day. The boy settled in to wait. Meanwhile, his mother trained him like minor royalty regardless, drilling him in piano and the bow, dressing him in tailored clothes before he hit his teens, handing him the manners of a world the two of them could never quite reach. A girl drifted into his orbit during those years, Julia. She came from serious wealth, and she had no use for him once she learned his address. Do you live on the street? I don't live on the street. He brushed past it, promising her a fortune was coming his way someday. I mean, I won't be there forever because I'm supposed to inherit a lot of money. To her, it read as a boy, stretching the truth to win her over, and she seemed fine letting him try. Are you trying to impress me? What? So, Careftenor, one afternoon the power dropped during a school function, and in the blackout she stole a kiss, only to pull away sharp once the lights returned. The rich girl thawed toward him for a spell. Then her own life pulled her elsewhere. His mother's health gave out next. She had waved off the warning signs too long, and the doctors had been no sharper, so by the time the illness got taken seriously, she was already fading in a hospital bed. The boy kept waiting on a call, a visit, a card. Anything from the family. None of them lifted a finger. With her last strength, Mary pulled him close and pried a vow out of him. He would never rest until he held the life he was meant for, the one she had built him toward. He gave his word. I want you to promise that you won't live until you have the right kind of life to serve that hurt me. Her closing request was to be entombed in the family mausoleum back in Huntington. The grandfather never bothered to reply, so she was lowered into an ordinary plot out in East Orange instead. All her son carried away was a strand of her hair, which he later tucked inside a small locket. The grief still fresh, he marched up to the Redfellow gates and leaned on the bell, fully expecting to claim the spot he believed was owed to him. A butler answered with a typed letter, unsigned and ice cold. That amounted to a polite refusal. After that, the boy got shuffled through foster care across New Jersey, and Julia faded out of his life entirely. Skip ahead a good many years. Becket has grown up into a guy working the floor of an upscale menswear shop. Sharp suit, a little earpiece clipped on, telling shoppers with a perfectly straight face that he is government security and cannot say more. Quietly, he keeps a running tally on the family, and the snag is that none of them ever seem to die. By now, he has mostly accepted he will not live to touch a cent. Then Julia strolls into his store. Recognition hits her instantly. Wow, I can't believe it's you. I can't believe it's me either. What's the, are you in the Secret Service? Oh. Yes. He is still planted in Belleville while she has done time in London, then Dubai, and circled back home. He gathers his nerve to float the idea of drinks sometime. Only she is wearing a ring now, promised to an old schoolmate of theirs named Lyle. Heading for the exit, she needles him, half in jest, about whatever became of all that Redfellow money he used to brag about. He swears it is coming. The socialite laughs and tells him to buzz her once he has wiped out the entire clan. Whatever happened to the Redfellow family fortune? I'll inherit. Well, call me when you've killed them all. That evening finds him alone in the dark, the locket open, his mom's hair between his fingers, her voice circling in his skull. 7 Redfellows breathing easy out there while she rots in a discount grave. And bit by bit, a thought he had never permitted himself to face head-on takes form. What if he nudged the line forward on his own? The first name belongs to a cousin, Taylor, a trader at the family shop. For a few days, the salesman chews it over, mostly convinced he could never see it through, that his conscience would devour him. Then, his manager drops the hammer. He's being banished to a warehouse over in Jersey City, since the owner's college dropout son wants the sales gig heard in Jersey City. It's closer to where you live. They have parking. I don't think I understand. We just think Big's kid dropped out of school. You're giving my job to the owner's 19-year-old kid? He argues. He gets nowhere. So he tosses the job and storms off. And somewhere on that walkout, a thing inside him hardens and goes still. Soon enough, Taylor throws one of his bashes, the kind where he rolls in by helicopter and showers the crowd with fistfuls of bills before leaping into the pool. With the doors thrown wide, Becket blends right in and watches, hunting for a gap. He spots an opening when his cousin breaks away toward a boat anchored off the shore, snatching a jet ski for himself. The salesman trails after him. Up on the deck, the trader is alone and blackout drunk, fading in and out, and pegs the new face for hired help. He slurs a request to deal with the anchor. Oh my god. The engine. Get the anchor. So Becket ties a length of rope around the drunk man's ankle and links the far end to that anchor. Holding the weight, he locks up for a beat, truly registering the thing he's on the verge of doing. Then Taylor jerks awake with a cough and wants to know who this stranger is, and the shock of it makes his grip slip. Down goes the anchor. The rope yanked heights hauls his cousin straight under, and that was the whole of it. Far simpler than he had braced for. A few days on, he turns up at the service and crosses paths with the late man's father, his uncle Warren. He passes along his sympathies and lets slip that he is Mary's boy. I'm so sorry for your loss. Thanks. Let's try and know your name. I'm Becket, Mary's son. You're lit with me. Floored, the uncle pulls him aside for a quick drink. The older man marvels at how much spine it took for an 18-year-old Mary to face down her own father and owns up to never being there for her or for the kid. Then his tone drops and he confesses he blames himself for his son, that he watched the boy sink into the party life and spiral and never stepped in. He wants to know what the kid does for a paycheck. Learning the answer is nothing right now. The uncle hands him Taylor's vacated chair at the firm. Becket protests that he has no business in finance, and Warren simply shrugs it off as nepotism and says he owed this kid a leg up ages ago. Yeah, I'm not even remotely qualified. No, it's nepotism. I just don't think it wasn't even remotely qualifying. None of this had been part of the design. He says yes, regardless. That opening stretch as a trader leaves him spinning, but a handful of weeks in, the vocabulary of the market starts to click. The way he figures it, this is precisely the schooling he will want once the family money is finally his to steer. And it does not take long to crack the central truth of the place. The wealthiest names in the city rarely earn a thing. They pocket a slice of whatever everyone else earns. He stores that away. His phone lights up one night, and it is Julia, fresh off the honeymoon. He needles her about how the marriage is treating her, then takes a guess out loud. Greece? The Maldives? Florida. She answers. She circles back to the day he made his move at the shop and then nudges him to take another shot. He obliges. She lets the silence sit, then reminds him she is taken, and signs off with a remark about how they really ought to cross paths again sometime. Remember that time you asked me out last year? Doesn't ring a bell. You were folding khaki pants, looking sad and pathetic. In case you feel embarrassed. You can even try again sometime. See what happens? Do you want to grab a drink sometime? Well, no. I'm married. The salesman shifts to the next name, his cousin Noah, a fellow who bills himself as an artist, a photographer. The notion of killing rests far easier in him by this point. He shows up at one of Noah's gallery nights and plays the devoted admirer in front of a hanging photo. It's like the artist. He is making us an accomplice, making us complicit. It's just so genius. The artist, huh? Yeah, once the guy is reeled in, he slips in the surprise that the two of them share blood. Think you and I actually may be cousins." Delighted, Noah drags him back home and parades the room where he develops his prints, which double as the hideaway where he ducks off to smoke out of sight of his girlfriend. Soon enough, that girlfriend, Ruth, wanders in calling his name, and the photographer pleads with Becket to keep the smoking quiet, which barely lasts before she clocks it anyway. Introductions get made, and over the meal, Becket and Ruth fall into the sort of conversation that erases everyone else at the table. She is in denim for now, but pivoting toward teaching high school English, he wonders aloud what she would assign. She names Dickens and Conrad, and both of them are off. A pair of book lovers while their host ribs them. On his way out, the teacher waves him back for a group dinner that coming Thursday. This round he understands he needs a real scheme. Thursday lands, and partway through dinner, someone asks whether Ruth is after kids. Sure, maybe down the road, she says. The artist cuts in to declare he cannot stomach them. Right in the thick of that, Becket peels away and climbs to the developing room. He tampers with the photochemicals until the batch will detonate like a bomb. Then stashes the bottle out of view, fractures the bulb so a spark sits waiting, and lets a cigarette fall on the floor to round out the picture. Anyone poking into it afterward reads a careless artist who botched his mixtures and lit up beside them. Noah comes searching and finds him stepping out of the room. He covers, claiming one of the photos won him over so completely he nearly pocketed it, and the flattered host autographs the piece and passes it along. Slipping out, the traitor leaves his jacket behind on purpose. A minute later, Ruth chases him down to return it, teasing that she is starting to suspect he wanted her one-on-one, and he draws her in for a kiss. 8 minutes after that, Noah throws the switch in the developing room, and the place erupts. Becket shows for that funeral too, and although he is aching to resume things with Ruth, he reads the room and keeps his distance. Just as he moves to slip out, a pair of agents flag him down. Penfield does the talking, her partner Matthews alongside her. They steer him into a coffee shop and put it to him plainly whether any inheritance might be coming his way. He plays it dumb, says his late mom had been a Redfellow before a falling out split them, and notes that a man in line for billions would hardly be clocking in every morning. The Bureau, they explain, has procedures to follow whenever two members of one family fall in quick succession. For the moment, they are only crossing their T's. Once he is back at the firm, Warren is over the moon at how fast the new hire is climbing and hands him an office of his own. His first real client is Julia herself. She glides in fishing for a loan, the story being that her husband took the reins of his old man's brokerage and ran it into a ditch, leaving the pair of them wiped out. The firm, he tells her, does not run that way. She is angling for something off the books under the table, and when he hesitates, she sweeps his keys off the desk and aims for the door. "Those are mine," he says. She tells him they ought to speak again soon, drops the names Taylor and Noah, muses about who might be unlucky next, and lets him know she will be waiting to hear from him. He does not care for how much she appears to grasp, so he gets out ahead of her and constructs an alibi. He borrows a co-worker, Ethan, gets his suit size, and the next day sends the man out in a matching outfit and cap to grab a hot dog at the food truck, planted squarely where the cameras catch him. Third in the line is yet another cousin, a megachurch preacher called Stephen, who runs his sermons like an arena act. The man has been charged in a couple of countries for laundering cash, with a lawsuit from his old handler hanging over him, and that leaves him buried in enemies. Should he wind up dead, nobody is going to give a quiet relative a second look. So Becket arrives, passing himself off as a magazine writer, Ben Johnson there for an interview. While the preacher rambles, the false reporter doctors his drink. Then it goes sideways. Stephen snatches up a katana, lays the edge against his throat, and announces he knows for a fact the real Ben Johnson hung it up 8 months back. "I know it was you. I knew it was you before you walked in the door. See, Ben Johnson retired 8 months ago. Your other victims might have been too dumb to put it together, but not me. You don't get out of here until you come clean." Thinking on his feet, Becket cops to the lie, but insists he is a cousin. Okay, I lied. I'm not Ben Johnson. Not are ya? Who are you? I'm back in. I'm your cousin. That freezes the preacher cold. It turns out he had Becket pegged as a reporter out to torch him in print, and the relief loosens him right up. He takes a pull from his drink, grumbles that something is off about the taste, and a short while later folds from what reads to everyone as a heart attack. With a figure that controversial, the church wants no investigation hovering over it, so the whole affair gets quietly shelved. A week or so later, Becket meets up with Ruth, and she admits she had been gearing up to leave Noah anyway. Now that he's gone, the guilt of feeling nothing eats at her, and she wonders whether that leaves her a monster. It only means she is being honest with herself, he says, and floats the idea of dinner. She would sooner keep it mellow, something cooked at home. The next evening, he arrives with groceries to find Julia already camped inside his apartment. "I know. Dramatic, right? What are you doing? What are you doing? She reveals she lifted his key from his office earlier and presses him on why he keeps ducking her. Swamped, he says, she pushes, then spills her own situation, that her husband has spent years lying to her, and they are flat broke, and brings up the heat they once shared. The doorbell goes. Right then, he hustles Julia out the rear, opens up for Ruth, blames a kitchen catastrophe, and takes her out for a bite instead. The teacher turns thoughtful. Over dinner, she had always figured herself for a fashion designer, chased it with blinders on, and only later admitted to herself she never really enjoyed it. Teaching had frightened her, and now that she is in it, it fills her up beyond anything she expected. The trouble, she says, is that nobody ever tells you it is fine to want something small. Back in the cell, the priest breaks in. A solid career, somebody who loved him, was that not plenty? Becket grants that it was, but none of the killings had ever gotten flagged, so he figured he must simply have a gift for it, and onward he went. The catch was that the relatives had started clocking the rising body count. Cassandra, an aunt of his, comes next. She was known far and wide for taking in 11 children from 11 separate countries. With all the deaths stacking up, she has fortified her homes with the priciest security on the market. What she leaves exposed is the day spa she hits each Tuesday. Becket walks in dressed as an attendant and offers her a free whitening session, which she takes without a flicker of doubt. The tray he hands over has been meddled with, and once she dies, the police chalk it up to some knockoff product she must have grabbed on one of her adoption trips abroad. Then comes his Uncle MacArthur, a man who holds a major stake in the National Air and Space Museum. The fellow was mapping out an honest-to-goodness voyage to the moon when a reporter rakes him for torching $90 million on a joyride while his staff goes without health coverage. He just says he would gladly do it on the cheap if the option existed. Becket worms his way onto the crew armed with just a laminated badge and a bargain bin shirt and laces the man's coffee right ahead of a flight. The uncle blacks out in the air, the plane comes down, and that makes 5. Around this time, the salesman and Ruth go house hunting and settle on a spot they both fall for. He says he loves her. She says it back, and he mentions he can float the place on a loan through the firm. She tells him, almost like a caution, that she liked him better back in his New York days when he rode the bus. Warren sits next in the order, but by now the kid has come to respect the man, and he just cannot make himself follow it through. For the first stretch in his whole life, he feels at peace. Things with Ruth are good enough that she wants to hold the engagement bash at the new place. One day, she mentions the Redfellows have been on her mind a lot and seems uneasy about him. He shrugs it aside, says he is hardly part of that family these days, and floats the idea that whatever has been going on might be finished. At work, the agents corner him again. Their digging turns something up, they say. Congratulations, he stands to inherit after all. He fakes astonishment. Then, Matthews names a date, April 10th, and asks how he spent that afternoon. He scans his calendar and recalls picking up a hot dog at the food truck. It had been Ethan on camera naturally, but the cover holds. Trouble is, the agents refuse to believe anyone recalls a random hot dog from months gone, and the footage is too smeared to pin a face, so they keep him on the line and assign a tail. Sometime afterward, Becket is on his way out of the office when Warren crumples behind him. A genuine heart attack this round, none of his doing. He rushes the old man to a hospital. From the bed, the uncle tells him he is 61 years old, and the only soul who came by all day is this kid he barely knew 12 months ago. He urges the kid to find whoever he loves most and hold tight, because chasing the money is a rabbit you never run down. Then he is gone. At the service, it dawns on the kid that a single Redfellow remains, his grandfather, Whitelaw. Days later, a note arrives from the old man, calling Becket out to the estate for dinner that very evening. The hitch is that it falls on the night of the engagement party. He tells Ruth, who reminds him he always swore he would never go near his grandfather, and he answers that this could be the one shot he gets. She gets him to swear he will make it back by 7, or he blows off his own engagement. Then, before he can leave, Julia surfaces at his office holding a brown parcel. Inside sit photographs, the kid at one death scene after the next, even handing MacArthur his coffee. She tells him her suspicions kicked in the day Taylor drowned, since the guy swam on a scholarship, so she put a tail on him of her own. He asks what she is after. 2 things as it happens: finish the final Redfellow and drop 300 grand at Lyle's place, where her husband sits by 5 o'clock. If the money is a no-show, those photos land in Ruth's lap. As an afterthought, she notes that were Ruth not in the picture, she would have demanded something other than cash. So he orders one of the traders to offload some shares and tears across town to Lyle's place, then bursts in, shoves a few items aside on the desk to make room, and starts cutting the check while telling the broke-soused husband to lighten up. A windfall is on the way. Lyle scoffs that he won't be seeing a cent of it because his wife is done and plans to bolt. And besides, she never wanted him in the first place. She wants Becket. Then he brands him a bastard. The kid drops him with a single punch, leaves the check, and walks out. From there, he drives straight for the estate, out where no phone catches a signal. His grandfather greets him in a hollow, empty house and explains he scrapped the rest of the dinner thanks to the weather, yet could not stand to turn his grandson away. They sit to eat. The old man remarks on how swiftly Becket scaled the financial ladder. Figures he must have busted a few skulls and trampled some rivals to manage it. The kid owns up to 2 or 3. It is plain the patriarch already knows precisely what his grandson has been doing. He says Mary was always his favorite, the keenest of all his children. The younger man presses on, why then he never came to her aid. The old man lets that question hang. Instead, he tells him the thing that ruins most people is their own conscience, that little voice naming right from wrong, and that if you learn to tip your head into the wind at just the right angle, you can shrink that voice down to almost nothing. Then he walks Becket over to an aged trench gun, a relic a great-great-uncle hauled through the Great War, presses it into his hands, and tells him to aim. At him, he wants the kid to finish it. Becket lifts the gun, trains it on the old man, and cannot make his finger move. He sets it down and says it is time to go. But the front door will not open, neither will the windows, and a man stands posted outside. Then come the footsteps. The instant he cracks a door, his grandfather is there firing the trench gun. Becket seizes a splintered length of wood and rams it into the old man's thigh, then bolts her with the patriarch limping in pursuit and bellowing that he had his shot and squandered it. Ducking into a room, the kid spots an old bow with arrows beside it, the one childhood skill from his mother he never imagined wielding like this. He looses an arrow the moment his grandfather appears and misses. He dodges the return fire, knocks another, and this one connects, one in the chest and a second in the throat. Down goes the old man. When the police roll in, they size it up and rule self-defense and turn him loose. He gets home long after the party is wound down, and Ruth is sitting there red-eyed and seething. She tells him she can feel he is concealing something, and that if he will not level with her, she is walking. He wants to lay it all bare. Instead, he gives her only the slice she is about to catch on the news, the self-defense business at his grandfather's place, and with that, it is finished. The old man gone, Becket stands as the last surviving Redfellow, and the entire fortune drops into his hands. He and Ruth get ushered into Manhattan's high society at an induction gala, applause and all. The life his mom had always pictured for him. Surely, this was it. Except Ruth looks deeply ill at ease the whole evening, as though this is the last room she would ever choose to stand in. Just as he settles into the new world, the past comes calling. At the celebration, the agents step in and take him into custody, and the charge lands like a sick joke. The killing of Lyle. The lone death he had no hand in. The case against him is brutal. There is footage of him stepping into the office and back out, leaving at 5:03. Just ahead of a time of death, the coroner sets between 6 and 15 cast. And the blade itself, a letter opener his fingers had brushed while he shifted things on the desk, is smeared with his prints. Julia, the wife who discovered the body, takes the stand and informs the jury Becket has been hung up on her since they were kids, dropping a tidy motive right into their hands. Ruth rises and leaves the courtroom. The verdict comes back guilty, and the penalty handed down is death. 24 hours out from the execution, Julia comes calling. He lifts the phone on his side of the glass only because she is sitting there, and tells her he would rather meet his end in this place than spend a minute beside her. She does not so much as blink. She tells him that Lyle, before he died, had chosen to end things on his own terms and left a note behind, and that she has been sitting on it the entire time. He asks what she is after. There is nothing left she could want from him, she says, and turns to leave. Desperate, he calls her back and begs. After a drawn-out pause, she names her terms. He is to sign the whole inheritance over to her. Every last bit of it. With no card left to play, he signs it all away. She leaves a kiss on the glass between them and walks off. A handful of hours later, that loops the story back to where it opened. A steady man in a cell talking to a priest. Becket tells Father James the reason he is not coming apart is plain. He trusts Julia to deliver. The chaplain starts in on a passage about dying. a sort of farewell. The clock keeps grinding forward, and Becket's pulse climbs as the minutes drain away. Then, at the very last second, a guard appears with word. Fresh evidence has come to light, the note Lyle left. And with it, Becket is no longer guilty. He walks free. Outside the prison gates, Ruth stands waiting. She does not utter a syllable. She simply folds the locket, holding a piece of his mom's hair into his palm, turns and drives off. Certain in her own heart that he was unfaithful, a short way off, Julia waits beside a chauffeured car. Becket pulls himself together, crosses to the car, climbs in, and cracks open a bottle. He has the money now, and the girl he chased since boyhood, but the one he truly loved is gone for good. The only soul alive who grasps the whole shape of what he did is that quiet priest, and the secrecy of the confessional means the man can never breathe a word. As the car rolls off toward the family estate, he thinks back on what the old man told him in that house. The one thing with any real power to wound a man is his own conscience. And lean your head into the wind, just so, and you can hush it down to barely a murmur. So here's the thing I keep chewing on long after the credits roll. Did Becket ever really buy the story he kept selling himself? That he was only taking back what the family stole from his mom? Or was that deathbed promise the perfect cover? The thing that let him feel like the victim while he quietly worked through the whole bloodline? He walks out with the fortune and the woman, and it still lands like a loss. Drop me your takedown in the comments because I want to hear it. And if you're in the mood for more crime stories where the guy you're following is also the worst person in the room, that next one's already sitting right there on your screen waiting for you.